Good thing the G7 summit, where all of the big leaders get together and, have a powwow and talk about what we're going to do to cause some more war and higher inflation. They got together and they were watching just a fantastic skydiving event that was done for them. Now, remember, just remember, these are the ones that are always saying, global warming. So not only did they fly over in their own planes to get together, but then they sent an airplane up with people in it to jump out for their entertainment. So I'm taking them seriously. But they're all standing there in an open field watching these guys come down, except for Joe Biden. He watches for a while, and then he decides, squirrel. And he starts to meander and walk away from, and it's incredible footage to watch because you can see none of the prime ministers or presidents know what to do as he just wanders off. He's facing the wrong direction. And you see Prime Minister Meloni from Italy. She's the only one that gracefully knows how to get him out. She kind of backs up and then grabs him and over here, Mr. Brown. We got cookies. Who wants a cookie? Look at cookies. Say cookie. It is horrifying how bad he is. And then he puts his glasses on at twice the speed that it takes for him to sit down at ceremonies. I don't know if you remember that footage from earlier this week, last weekend, where he was trying to sit down and looked like he crapped his pants. He didn't crap his pants. He was just deciding, should I sit down or not? Maybe I should stand. Okay, that's what was going through his head. He didn't know whether he started to sit down, and then he was like, oh, nobody else is. You just stand up, man. You just stand right back up. It's no big deal. We've all done it. Whoops. But he just froze like I'm thinking. When he's putting his sunglasses on, he's like, I've got to lift my arm. The pressure on my sunglasses enough to keep them held up so I can put them now on my face over my ears. Done. What do they jack him up with? Because they've got to jack him up with something. Because there's no way. That's not the guy who speaks to us in major interviews or, when he comes in to address Congress for the State of the Union. He's like, hey, man, I got to tell you, everything's going great. I mean, the state of our economy is great. I don't know what they're putting him on, but that ain't Joe Biden.
The difference is
what we're
shocking.
Seeing now. Yeah, shocking.
I mean, you look at, in the interviews, he's with it. But when he gets on a stage, maybe he's just allergic to stages. I don't really know what it is. But he'll just have that
in this case,
reboot.
it was a field.
In this field. But yeah, it's that, remember that when he got stuck in that one facial expression when he was at that, what was that event at the White House or whatever was it Juneteenth? It was stuck. It was like everything just stopped. And
can you play that? Do we have that video from earlier this week? I'm not sure we still have it. But that video of him on the Juneteenth celebration, that happened actually last weekend. The weekend before was, I'm going to sit. So it's once a week we're getting these major things. And he was standing at Juneteenth, and everybody was moving with the music and everything else. He had that Joker smile on him. Go ahead and roll that, will you? He had this Joker smile on his face. No, that's not it. But that's another great one, too. He has this Joker smile on him that doesn't move. He's like, I'm happy to be here, and everybody's happy. Jill told me to keep smiling. So I'm smiling. That's all I'm doing now is smile. She didn't tell me to move and smile. I'm just smiling. and not moving.
That's just creepy.
It is creepy. He is, you know who looks more lifelike? The audio animatronic Joe Biden. It'll be the only one in Disney that's like, man, they nailed him. They didn't get better. He just always looks like he's audio animatronic.
You know, I don't want
a robot.
I don't want to like presume. I don't want to try to guess on what might be wrong with him. But my father had lupus, and he would have like little like micro strokes, and it was just all of a sudden he would just like check out. He would just kind of stop and like kind of gaze. And what he was doing, he was having like little micro strokes. And that is eerily similar to what I saw from him.
Well, this is, I mean, one of my daughters, Mary, she has significant strokes and significant seizures. And this really cutting edge procedure that I wouldn't have done. She chose to do it because I would have been too afraid. Because they said to her, "You may wake up and you may not recognize anybody. You may not be able to speak or know people's names. I mean, we don't know what we're doing here, but we think we know what we're doing, but we don't." And brave girl, she was like, "Do it. I don't want to live like this anymore. Just do it." And so they did, and she was seizure-free for about 2 years, and now they've come back pretty hard, and hers are really getting grand mal-ish. My other daughter has seizure where she is like Joe Biden, but just very short period of time, where she just like, and you're like, hello, what? And we for a long time, didn't know they were seizures. Kind of probably like your dad. Mm-hmm. We didn't know. Just thought he just kind of drifted, for a minute.
Yep.
And yeah. But that's not, I think he's just gone. Here's Biden yesterday promising Ukraine a lot more money. Great.
By the way, the idea that we had to wait till we passed the legislation overall, even held up by a small majority of our Republican colleagues, was just terrible. And there's a lot more money coming beyond what's already come.
Can you stop? Play that again. I want you to listen to what the President of the United States just said. Listen again.
By the way, the idea that we had to wait till we passed the legislation overall, even held up by a small majority of our Republican colleagues.
Stop.
Was
the idea that we had to wait for Congress to pass this before we could do it is just horrible. That's the constitutional process, dude. He's complaining that you have to wait before you spend money on something that's controversial. What is that? That's the cry of a dictator. Now you can say, because of our system, we had to wait. And, it's just the way, a republic and a democracy, it's not pretty all the time, but it's, as Churchill said, it's the worst until you compare it to everything else, and then you realize it's the best. It's the best of the worst. Sorry we had to delay on that, but we have certain things we have to do, but the money's there now. No, he's saying the very idea that we had to wait. Do you know that famous speech from FDR, a date which will live in infamy? Do you know what that speech was? That speech was for the president to make his case in front of Congress to go to war. There was never a clearer, at least, in the last 100 years, there's no clearer declaration of war than bombing Pearl Harbor, right? Bombing all of our ships. Today, we would have just launched. The president back then, this is how far we've drifted. The president back then, even after Pearl Harbor, went the very next day to Congress and gave that speech. And then they voted. The very idea that we have to vote on things in Congress, I've done everything I can to make Congress and the Constitution just, a rubber stamp, but I'm not there yet. So let me promise you that there's a lot more money coming. Oh my gosh.
He does these, that's an interesting point you make, Glenn, because I've caught him doing that in the past, these very fundamental beliefs of our country, the United States, they clearly just do not believe in. Like every time he threatens us with the F-15 remark that he said about 16,000 times.
Yes.
I never really got annoyed that it was a threat. I never really took it that way. What really annoyed me was he is making fun of the fundamental, right of self-defense that we have in this country. The fundamental right that if there ever becomes a tyrant, you have the tools to stand up and push back and say no. You have that right to put.
You not only have the right, as it says in the Declaration of Independence, you have the duty.
Yes.
To overthrow the shackles of a tyrant. And you're right. But, Jason, as somebody who was in Afghanistan right after 9/11, I don't know. On those F-15s, everything that we threw at them, they're still in charge of Afghanistan, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't think F-15s helped them out too much. Neither did the Northern Vietnamese. I mean, history is full of insurgencies that have been successful. On this Ukraine funding thing, we've done multiple different shows on some of this stuff. And what will shock you, if you just kind of look and try to trace some of these funds, whether they're coming from Congress or some other agency within this government, it is everywhere. Like, just look at the news. You'll look, it's like, oh, Secretary Blinken was in Ukraine yesterday, and he just promised $200 million.
Money.
Yeah, like, where'd that come from? Congress didn't approve that. And then you'll hear at the exact same time the Pentagon did.
That's the Chevron case.
Yes.
That's the Chevron case. They can't do that.
Yeah.
Only Congress has the purse strings. Only Congress can issue more spending. It must start in Congress. We've completely disregarded the Constitution. It's not only hanging from a thread. I think the thread is so frayed that it is broken and we're not even using it at all, or we are the closest that we've ever been to absolutely destroying everything that everybody worked and died for. Anyway, so he's promising more money, but don't worry, the experts get it. Here is Janet Yellen telling us that, you just don't get it. You don't understand. We're smarter than you. Cut 9.
All Americans, both those who are well off and those who are near the bottom of the income distribution, are better off now. Their wages have risen more than prices.
Okay. All right. Good is bad. Bad is good. Up is down. Down is up. And prices are down and your wages are up. So everybody knows this. America, can you afford to be led by these people another 4 years?